Crabbe's Journal 5. My parents left for the club at about 8. Since they seldom returned before 1 or 2, I figured I had lots of time. As they left, I was enjoying the last bath I'd had in a long time. When Cook slammed to the back door, I was packing my toothbrush. As soon as it was dark, I began. From my room above the garage, a wooden staircase descends to the back patio, and behind the stairs is the door into the garage. It's kind of hard to get at because the stairs were put in after the garage was built. They were a fire escape for my room. The city made my parents put it in when they had the room over the garage built so I could have my own turf. I began to move the gear from the hiding places, haul it downstairs in the dark, into the garage, and into the back of our station wagon. It was almost 10 o'clock when I started on the canoe. This was tricky. The boat was kept on 2 sawhorses behind the garden shed at the foot of the yard, between the shed and the high cedar hedge. The whole plan rested on me being able to get out of the neighborhood without anyone seeing the canoe. So I had to work in the dark. First, I turned out the lights of all the rooms along the back of the house. The yard was now good and dark. Then I went to the tool shed, slipped behind, and tried to lift the canoe from the horses. Graceful creature that I was. I lost my balance and fell, knocking over the sawhorses, and ended up pinned between the shed and the canoe. I was sure the clatter and banging woke the world. I lay there for 5 minutes, breathing quietly, straining for sounds of alarm, or roving neighbors, or suspicious detectives in creased raincoats carrying big shiny flashlights. Nothing stirred. Dragging myself out of the trap, I grabbed one edge of the canoe and dragged it from the space between the shed and the hedge. Once clear of the sawhorses and pieces of old lumber, it slipped easily on its bottom over the damp grass. I put it down and went back quickly to the right of the sawhorses and hauled the tarp over them. As an afterthought, I took some butt ends of lumber and propped them up under the tarp. It looked as if the canoe was still there. Pleased with this ruse, I picked up one end of the boat again, half lifted, half dragged it across the 60 or so feet of grass to the patio. I had to hoist it completely off the ground then, so it wouldn't scrape on the flagstones. I confess I'm not good at lifting things. I am skinny, gangly, and not strong. I don't even think Hercules could get a 16-feet of fiberglass canoe behind a staircase and through a door into a garage. I couldn't do it. I pulled, pushed, swore, lifted, yanked, begged, no dice. My only other option was to lug the thing around to the front of the house through the big garage doors, but that was too risky. So I tried again. I hauled the front of the canoe to the top of the doorway and jammed it to the top of the door jamb. The rear point was wedged in an angle where the stairs hit the patio. Great. Not only did the thing look ridiculous, I couldn't move it at all. Cursing, I kicked the damn thing. It broke free of the perch, bow first, and thundered to the ground, half from the door, half out, knocking over a garage pail and setting up a pounding clamor. I quickly went into the garage, not easy because I had to climb over the boat, and dragged the boat in. I closed the door and held my breath. 15 minutes later, I had the roof racks attached to the wagon. Getting the canoe on top was a strain. I found that swearing helped a whole bunch. By the time I had it tied down securely with big lumpy knots I guessed would hold, it was almost midnight. At the last minute, I remembered that paddles might come in handy. I was almost ready to go. I had just climbed into the station wagon to check the route to Ithaca Camp on the road map for the 1000th time and was straining to see by an interior light when I heard a sound that chilled my blood. A car had pulled into the driveway. My parents had come home early. Quickly slamming the wagon door, I rolled onto the floor just in time because the electric door on the other side of the garage began to grind open, allowing the yellowy white light of the headlights to splash into the darkness of the garage and throw eerie shadows up on the walls and across the ceiling. I lay looking up at the roof of the wagon as if the harder I stared, the safer I was. My heart's pounding roared in my ears. If they so much as glanced at the wagon and saw the big red canoe on top, I was sunk. The long, black, rocket-like car my father drives growled into the garage. The engine quit. The light disappeared. The garage door clanked shut. There was a moment of dead quiet, then doors opened and shut, echoing. Feet scraped and clicked on the cement floor. The sounds were distant, hollow. So were the tired voices. I don't want to talk it any more. The kid's going to have to work this all out for himself. I'm sick of the whole issue. It goes on and on. Do you want the lights on? No, I can find my way. That's easy for you to say, very easy. But you don't have to watch him flush his life down the drain, because that's what he'll do if we let him. He's not going to university. You know that, don't you? What do you mean I don't have to watch him? I'm his father, for Christ's sake. The door of the house opened, then closed again, muffling their voices. My heartbeats continued to leap all over the inside of my body for a few minutes. I was sweating through the shirt and surprised to find I was breathing quickly. But I was safe. I sat up in the front seat of the car. I would be behind schedule because I couldn't leave for a couple hours now. That would mean, I did some quick calculations, I'd arrive near Ithaca camp just about dawn, early enough to be under the cover of darkness, but too late to set out across the lake. So I'd have to hide in the bush near the river for 24 hours. I sat back in the seat and waited. I felt good on the long journey north, sort of free. It didn't take long to get out of the city and away from the lights, and pretty soon I was sifting along the darkness in a moving cave, cowboy music on the radio and the wind singing on the ropes that held the canoe on. Well, I was almost happy.